Welcome. In front of me is a Huawei Nova 11 Pro, and today I'll go over unboxing along with a quick overview of this device. So anyway, let's just get straight into it. Okay, so that's basically all we have in a box. Now, if you didn't see, the charger right here that we get provided with is actually a pretty good one. It's 100 watts, so there we go, we can actually see it right here. So pretty fast, one of the better ones. So you can basically charge things like even computers with this. It probably would have been a little bit better at this point to make it Type-C instead of Type-A, but it's Huawei, so you know, you don't always get what you want. Now, when it comes onto the design of the device, it actually looks pretty nicely. One thing to mention, this I believe is plastic, though it doesn't have this kind of plasticky feel to it, but it also doesn't have like a leather feel to it. I think it's trying to imitate leather, but it doesn't really feel like it to the touch. So it's something I wanted to point out. It also looks a little bit tacky because it does use the device logo, the Nova logo, all around here, which I feel like it's useless. They already made it stand out with the pseudo leather look, but then they also added this garbage, which kind of takes away from the, I guess, more professional look for it, kind of like a nicer look. But that's just personal opinion. Now, to get started, let's talk about the display right here. So this is a 6.7-inch display with a 1200 by 2652 pixels resolution. It's an OLED display, HDR10 certified. Well, technically that's not a really certification. 120 nits. We have also 91.1% screen to body ratio, so very small bezels, which you can primarily see at the top and bottom. And we have 429 pixels per inch. So the display right here is pretty good. Now, before I go any further with any kind of other specs, I'm just going to quickly mention the price, which the price is at about 500 or a little bit over 500 US dollars. Now that is a little bit too much for this device. I want to just kind of clarify this right away, that I don't think this device is worth the money, because it is Huawei, and I don't mean that as a Huawei hater. I used to have a Huawei myself. I just mean because of Huawei made some questionable decisions in their business practices, they got spanked hard, and now Google got no Play services, and for a lot of the people that will be a massive L. So that being said, them not having play services, I would argue, is a little bit of a drawdown that shouldn't be, that should kind of reflect on the price tag, which it never does. So, continuing into the internals, which also aren't necessarily the best, we have a Snapdragon 778G, which this device was just released, and it comes with a 4G processor. Now that's another big L there. For 500 bucks, almost any phone will now support 5G. It might not be glamorous as a technology, but when you're paying 500 bucks, you expect to have it. Here you don't. Now moving down, we have a 4500 mAh battery, 4 GB of RAM, and 256 GB of storage, or 512, depending on which one you pick. And just kind of going on a whim here, but we most likely don't have expandable storage because this is Huawei. Let's see. I mean, this is typically an SD card, but okay, so that's a SIM, and that says nothing, so I have no clue. The reason I'm checking this a little bit more is because Huawei does have their own proprietary kind of like SD card technology. So they have ones that are the size of a SIM card, and it's named nano memory. But as you can see, there is no nano memory writing on here, which leads me to believe that we cannot expand the storage any further, which is, and again, a little bit of an L. So moving on to the cameras, which Huawei would typically be basically the king of. This is a mid-range device, so it won't really compete with the top dogs right now. But the main one is a 50 megapixel wide sensor. Then we got an 8 megapixel ultra wide, and I'm getting a brain aneurysm. Isn't that a camera? Pretty sure that looks like a camera. Very puny one, but it's not listed. So I assume this is just a prop for some reason. Why? Anyway, let's flip it over to the front where we have a dual camera setup, as you can see. So the main one is a 60 megapixel ultra wide. Damn. Then we got an 8 megapixel portrait. So the front one actually, for some reason, has a higher pixel count than the back one. Okay. Now, anything else to mention? We do have under display fingerprint sensor. We can record videos at 4K, 1080p. Doesn't really specify the frame rates. Same goes for the front ones as the back ones. So again, 4K 30, 1080p 30. Although it says on the front one that it's 30 frames. It doesn't really say what it is at the back. Now, that being said, this is basically all I can say about this device. It is a little bit of an underwhelming device. Huawei also includes this garbage right here, just to kind of try to troubleshoot around their problem that they don't have App Store, which, again, as a user, you get to pay for the device that is overpriced, but you have to jump through freaking hoops to get apps that aren't accessible on their app gallery, as an example. Also, if you bought apps on Play Store, those go bye-bye, and you can no longer use them because App Gallery wants their own cut of the money when you get the apps. So, you know, that's again an L. So to just kind of go over this and just give you the rundown of why I don't think this device is worth it, I'm gonna also point out the things that are good about it, and I'm gonna start with those because there's not very many of them. So we have a really good display right here, 120 Hz refresh rate, over 1080p resolution. We also have 120 Hz refresh rate right here, which I think I just mentioned. Anyway, it's an OLED display too, so it gets really dark in terms of like the black levels. It's basically the pixels are off, so it gives you superb contrast levels. So that's one. Number two will be the charger, 100-watt charger. That is, no matter what the plug here is, it's actually pretty good. So it's nice to see this kind of thing being included with the device. And even though I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of this, I do think that the back does have a little bit of a flair to it, which makes it stand out a little bit more and makes it a little bit nicer. Though this is just preferential, obviously. I'm just a little bit bored of the typical glass back devices, and I like the leather look to it. But personally, if I would have to pick, I would probably go with the Motorola. I think that they had some leather back device, and that was really nice. It actually felt way more premium than this. Now the L's will start piling up here pretty quickly. So the processor right here for 500 bucks is absolutely atrocious. It's a Snapdragon 778, and not only is it going to be slow compared to other devices in this category or this price range, released even earlier than this device, it also doesn't support the 5G connectivity, so that's another thing that you won't be able to utilize on a device that costs $500. And the biggest L for Huawei is obviously the thing that they don't really have control over anymore, which is the App Store. And that is one of the biggest reasons why I don't think this device is worth that much. If you don't support on Android, the thing that basically everyone uses Android for, you kind of failing. Like, most of the people that are using Android, they're not switching to iPhone, for instance, because they already have whatever apps purchased there. This basically forces them to get, again, the same apps. And to be completely honest, at this price range, you might as well just save up a little bit more and go for an iPhone, which will give you much better experience than this. And you will still have basically the same ecosystem that is locked down and limited as iPhone or as Huawei. So yeah. Now, that being said, I do have a recommendation if you are looking for a device but just can't find one that you consider good, and that would be a Xiaomi, a specific one to be more precise. There is a Xiaomi 12. I think they have also 12 Lite and 12 Plus or whatever, but the 12 will be the closest apple to apples comparison and the best substitute for this device. It will have a little bit of a smaller display, and if that is something that you don't mind, that's great, because basically in everything this device will perform better than this one, while costing about the same or less, because this device was actually released almost 2 years back. Still offering better specs than this one, costing less. Go figures. So, just to kind of give you a quick rundown of what I'm talking about in terms of the Xiaomi 12, so you know the comparison. It's running number one on Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, 5G connectivity included. It has at bare minimum 8 GB of RAM and goes up to 12. Storage 112 minimum, goes to 256, which I guess compared to this one isn't necessarily that high. We're also running on Android 12 at the time of release of this. It could get probably an update to 14, possibly, although I don't know, I don't have the phone on hand anymore, so I can't really tell. It's using AMOLED display, 120 Hz, HDR10 Plus certified, peak brightness of 1100 nits, so it gets pretty bright. Cameras 50, 13.5, and at the front 32. It records at 8K 24, 4K 3060. Battery same, 4500. Wired charging 65 watts. Though, just to kind of clarify this, we do have 100 watts charging right here. Just to compare this, the 67 watt charger for the Xiaomi charges the device to 100% in 39 minutes. I don't think you need any more than that, to be completely honest. It also has wireless charging at 50 watts, so you can just slap it on a wireless charger if you have one that supports this insane of a charging speed, and that will get your device to 100% in 53 minutes. And that's basically all I can say about this device. I just wanted to give you a quick rundown as a comparison to this one, how it stacks up, and probably can already gather that the Xiaomi 12 is significantly better than this device. It also obviously comes with Play services, while costing anywhere from, I guess, $380 to $450, although it's different prices, different currencies, so it might vary a bit, but in general it's still cheaper than this, while offering more and also being faster and better. So that's why I recommend looking at other devices. That's the one that I keep in mind usually when I'm looking at mid-range devices, because this device itself punches at a mid-range value while offering basically a flagship device. It will obviously suffer on a couple things, considering they did make like Plus and Pros of it or something like that, which had, I think, only better cameras. If you don't really care about cameras all that much, which, just to point out, I believe they still might be, in terms of the back ones, probably better on the Xiaomi. Here, I think the selfie camera with the 16 megapixel ultra wide, it's unrivaled. I mean, I never seen a phone with this kind of pixel count on a selfie ultra wide. So when it comes down to probably shooting things like TikToks and stuff like that on this device, you probably don't have very many options. This one will be one of the more like insane ones in terms of what you can record with the front-facing camera. But that's probably really all it offers. So anyway, hopefully you found this video helpful and also found the recommendation helpful. I'm not, just to point that out, I'm not affiliated with Xiaomi in any way. I just think that they're they have some of the devices, not all, pretty good, and I just wanted to point that out because I did have this on my hand some time ago, and I found this device to be absolutely insane for the value. So anyway, with that being said, if you found this video helpful, hit that like button, subscribe, and thanks for watching.